The QX50 is a compact crossover and Infiniti's entry-level crossover with a base price just over $40,000. Now, I've driven the QX50 a few times and the QX55 actually pretty recently. You should check that video out. This is the all-new grade of QX50. It is the sport grade. It's all new for 2023, so obviously I haven't driven it before. Excited to dive into it. Let's go. Trims for 2023 include the Pure, the Luxe, the Sport, which is all new, the Sensory, and the Autograph. All of those trims are offered in both rear-wheel drive and all-wheel drive, except the Autograph, which is only offered in all-wheel drive. This one is the Sport, which offers some new sporty cues, but doesn't really add any sportiness to the vehicle. We'll talk more about that as we drive it. But we do have it in the all-wheel drive configuration, so I'm eager to dive into it. Let's start off with the exterior design and a little bit of those sporty cues. So Infiniti is already known for its sculpted lines, swooping curves, and wide dynamic stance, but the Sport gets even more. We get the Sport front fascia with the Sport S badge in the rear, blacked out exterior accents including blacked out side window moldings, painted front grille, black grille surrounds. You also get the 20-inch black painted and machine finished wheels, which are exclusive to the Sport. Our roof rails are also blacked out. This one also comes with power folding side mirrors that do power fold on lock and have an integrated turn signal. We also have the dual exhaust with chrome finishing, which looks really cool and very sporty here. We also have the signature LED headlights, LED tail lights, and LED fog lights here. And our Sport is sporting the graphite shadow paint, which for a gray color looks really good with all the black accents. They do have some pictures of this online in black with the black accents, and I think that looks really good as well. But obviously color is always subjective. Let's quickly touch on the size before we move on. The total length of the QX50 is 184.7 inches. The wheelbase 110.2 inches. The width is 85.1 inches and the height is 66 inches. So coming around to the backside of the QX50, this is a power lifting hatch. It's also a hands-free hatch, so you can swipe your foot and it will pop with the key in your pocket, obviously. And you get 31.1 cubic feet of total cargo space behind the second row seating. You can fold that down and get 64.4 cubic feet of total cargo volume, which is a ton. Other than that, you've got an accessory power outlet. You've got carpeting all throughout. Not just a nice size, but a good all-around cargo area, which you would expect with a compact crossover. Let's go ahead and check out the engine under the hood and see what we're dealing with there. So one of the things that Infiniti didn't do was mess around with this engine. It is the world's first mass-produced variable compression engine, and in all of the Infinitis that it's in, I've really praised it. It's a 2-liter engine. It can seamlessly change its compression ratio to optimize for improved fuel efficiency or greater power output, depending on the driver's demand. It is rated at 268 horsepower, 280 pound-feet of torque. The engine is paired with Infiniti's Xtronic transmission, which is basically a CVT, and that will also do downshift rev matching. And you do have paddle shifters standard in this vehicle, which is said to help with an engaging driving experience. I don't necessarily buy it. If you've seen my other videos with the QX50 or QX55, I don't count them as super engaging driving. They can be quick, but that CVT kind of messes with the sporty feeling of it. Not that it's not one of the better CVTs on the market, but we'll get to more of that as we drive it. But before we can drive it, let's check out the interior, starting with the back seats. All right, and we're starting off in the back seats because this is a good size vehicle for a compact crossover. As a backseat passenger, I have plenty of headroom, plenty of knee room, plenty of foot room, hip room, really good as well. Interior in this thing is really nice. We'll touch on more as we get in the front seats. You get your own vents. You get a USB Type-C and USB Type-A charging port. You get a pull-down armrest with cup holders. Middle seat would be pretty tight if you got 2 adults, but I had the kids 3 wide back here and they were just fine. The driver's seat does push back whenever you turn the vehicle off, which can crush the legs of the passenger right here. But I've been told that's a feature you can turn off if you want to. If you're looking at the QX55, you lose some headroom, so it's a lot more tight back here for rear passengers. So if you're going to be hauling around some people with you, I would definitely opt for the QX50. Otherwise, they're basically the same inside. With that, let's go ahead and jump in the front seat, take a look at the interior here, then we'll take it for a drive. All right, guys, here in the front seats now, and let's talk really quickly about this interior. It is Monaco red semi-aniline leather appointed seating with black aluminum interior trimming. It looks really good. I really like the dual tone look with the red and black. Really suits the Sport name really well, but it's not exclusive to the Sport. So there are definitely things that I really like about this interior and things that I could do without or would definitely change. Let's get into it. All right, and we'll start off by kicking the car on with push button start. And immediately into a gripe of mine, which is this dual screen setup. Every time I have an Infiniti with it, I always talk about this. I don't really like the setup. I've gotten used to it over the years of reviewing Infinitis, so I know it pretty well, but I do just prefer one larger screen and definitely better quality screens. These are decent and they've gotten better over the years, but they're not great screens. They are both touch screens, so you can touch to navigate, which is good, but you also have your dial down here that will navigate the top screen. You do have Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. You've got physical buttons for a lot of your controls here, but you also have in menu buttons. Down below those screens is a wireless phone charger, which works out really well. You have 2 USB ports, one USB Type-A, one USB Type-C, and a 12-volt accessory charger. You have the electronic shifter here where up is reverse, back is drive. Got a little button here you've got to push. When you put it into reverse, you do get a full 360 camera system with backup camera there. Really good. And even if you're in park or drive, you can hit the camera button here to activate that camera. Behind that, you have a toggle switch for your drive modes. We'll get into that as we drive the car. Electronic parking brake and an auto hold button. Our steering wheel is a nice chunky steering wheel, leather wrapped with white stitching. You got nice controls on the steering wheel, including your Blue Link. So behind the steering wheel, you do get a driver information display with menus you can shift through from the steering wheel controls and to analog gauges. Would love to see Infiniti follow the trend of having a full digital screen here that can be more customizable, but it works well for what it is. We have no head-up display in this model. On the other side of the steering wheel, you have a hatch pop button, your lighting controls, and this is for your lane sensing button and your parking sensors. We do have a 12-speaker premium Bose audio system, which does sound really good in this car. And we do have a full panoramic sunroof, which is nice to have. But with that, let's go ahead and get this thing out on the road. We'll drive it and let you know what I think. So the QX50 is a solid driving platform. That engine is stellar. I really like it. I've liked it in all of the Infiniti products that I've driven it in. The interior is a mixed bag for me. Everything is really easy to touch. It is a comfortable interior. I do like the steering wheel position. You can get, like I said, super comfortable, which is great, especially for long road trips, which is what we did with the QX55 that we drove at the end of last year. Again, definitely go check out that video if you haven't. But the driving dynamics of both of them are very similar, if not exactly the same. This one is a bit bigger. All the safety technology that Infiniti is packing into these vehicles is really great, especially the lane keeping assist. When I did the road trip in the QX55, most of it was with that lane keeping assist on, and super smooth sailing. On top of that, you've got all the radars, so parking this thing is really easy. The 360 camera makes it super easy to maneuver and park this thing. Even though it's not a big crossover, it's always helpful to have those extra safety features. Like I alluded to earlier, you do have some drive modes in here. So we toggle the switch. We have an eco mode. You've got a standard mode, a sport mode, and a personal mode. If you put it into sport, you can immediately kind of feel it getting more sporty, more responsive. Sounds decent, but it's not gonna win any exhaust awards. You can pull on the paddle shifts and row the gears yourself, which helps a bit, but this really isn't a sporty vehicle, although it can be kind of sporty and quick. Really, more than anything, it's hampered by that CVT transmission. But as far as CVTs go, it's really good and calibrated with even fake shifts. Try a bit of a 0 to 60 on this backcountry road. 0, ready, set, go. Throttle down. It's a little bit of lag. Pushing. 60. It's definitely not the quickest thing out there, especially off the line. You can make it feel sporty in the corners in the sport mode because it keeps the revs decently. And it's got a little bit of torque, but definitely not the off-the-line power, which, again, is not really what this thing's about, but I wish it was a little bit more about that. Fuel economy is really good in this thing. And speaking of fuel economy, thanks to the power plant's innovative design, the QX50 has a pretty good fuel economy for a crossover. You're looking at 23 miles per gallon city, 29 highway, with the front-wheel drive, and 22 city, 28 highway with the all-wheel drive. During our full week of testing, leaving it idle as doing some of the video and pushing it a little bit hard, we've averaged 24.2 miles to the gallon, which I think is really good. You do have that all-wheel drive system in this vehicle, and that's good if you're living somewhere where you're in more snowy conditions and stuff like that. It's not going to win any off-roading awards, although you have a decent ground clearance, so if you need to take it a little bit off-road, it'll do fine. But it's mainly for slippery conditions. I would opt for the rear-wheel drive here in Texas. It'll save you on fuel economy and price, and probably feel even a little bit more sporty. But if you are interested in all-wheel drive, it has it, and it's decent. Not that I really got to put it through its paces during this week, but we had a couple of pretty rainy days, and it did just fine in the rain. And during my full week of driving this thing and reviewing it, that's pushing it hard, letting it idle as we do video, the entire week I've averaged 24.2 miles to the gallon, which I think is really good. And pretty much all week I've driven it in normal mode, not eco, not sport, which is just fine for this. Definitely one of the best parts of driving this Infiniti in particular, but almost any of the Infinitis, is looking down the hood. You see the two bulges over the wheels and the bulge in the hood, and it reminds you that you're driving something kind of unique and sporty looking, and has a little bit more design than your normal everyday crossover, which is, I think, one of the main reasons to buy this vehicle. but it's gonna come at a price. Let's go ahead and talk about that price. We'll pull back over, talk about the price of this thing, and then we'll wrap up the video shortly after that. All right, so after all of that, let's quickly talk about the price here. I already told you the base price is just over $40,000, $40,300 for the base pure. The sport trim starts out just over $50K, and this one that we're sitting in here has an MSRP of just over $52,000. So it's in a really competitive space. This is pretty luxurious, but also has some older tech, like I said, with the dual split screens. But you also get some really great tech like the lane keeping assist. It's hard to place it with its competition. I feel like if you're buying the Infiniti, you're doing it mainly for the design. And while I think that 52K is pushing it a little bit for what you're getting here, if you can afford it and you like the design, it's a solid vehicle. Speaking of solid vehicle, let's go ahead and jump out and I'll give you some of my final thoughts on this thing, and we'll wrap up the video there. All right guys, so after the full week of driving the QX50, I'm left with basically the same impression that I'm always left with the QX50 and the 55. I would prefer the 55 styling just a little bit more. It is more geared towards the male perspective, while this is geared more towards female buyers. That's just kind of a marketing thing. This definitely has more cargo volume than the QX55, so if that's what you're going for, this would be your bet. I think it's a solid platform, really great car. The only reason I would choose the QX50 over the 55 is the 55 seems more sporty, but isn't any more sporty. While this is just a really solid platform. The new Sport Grade is really good. I like the extra styling details that you get with the Sport Grade. I would like to have maybe something a little more sporty to go along with that, like a power bump, more sporty suspension, a different transmission. But either way, like I said, it's already a really solid platform. So if you're interested in the QX50 or 55, I do recommend both of them. With that, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please hit the thumbs up button. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you think about the QX50. If you're into automotive reviews, please subscribe to the channel. We do a different review every week. You can also go check out txgarage.com, where we do a lot of written reviews as well as event and news coverage from a lot of great authors over there. Really worth checking out. But with that, guys, thanks for watching.